So we took the fancy seats to the front. So Sarah Hines and I are going to do a little fireside chat. All you have to do is step outside to feel the fire,
Yeah,
right?
I was going to say, yeah, minus the fire.
I'm Dawn Yankee Love. I'm Executive Director of Talk Technology Association of Louisville, Kentucky. And I run Aspects, a PR and marketing firm in tech and healthcare. And with us today, we have Sarah Hines. Sarah has just changed roles into a separate position in AI that she will tell us about here in a little bit. But I want to give you a little background on Sarah. In 2019, she co-designed and developed an AI product and was later named one of IBM's Women's Leader in AI, a global list of 40 women who are pioneering the use of AI in business. Sarah joined Humana in 2015 as part of a specialized strategic innovation team focused on evaluating transformational technologies to help redefine business processes and practices. She successfully implemented an enterprise artificial intelligence platform to transform the way Humana serves providers. Before joining Humana, Sarah was the Vice President of Operations at Prism Medical, where she launched a new division focused on the acute care market and led the division in operational quality, strategic intelligence, market analysis, sales productivity, and process efficiency. Prior to that, she served as Vice President and Partner Sales for Zirmed. She has had key sales and strategy roles focused on leadership positions, also at other tech organizations like US Voice and Data, Verizon, and RS Communications, an IT consulting firm. And so she has served as RS CEO for more than 10 years. So at this point, she is working in AI in Humana, and so we're going to ask her some key questions about what is really occurring in AI in the healthcare and insurance area. So we're going to have her sit down, relax, just a little chat. Get your questions ready. Get your questions ready.
No questions.
Okay. Oh, and this chair rolls
I know,
nicely.
we already just checked that out. So.
Okay. All right, so Humana is known for its innovation, and particularly in AI, it's been an organization that really has, worked forward. And so what are some of the projects you've overseen, and how has it developed since implementation? I know Sarah's been on the front line at Humana, and now she's getting to do the invention side.
Okay, so I was brought in, as Dawn noted, in a kind of a SWAT team for the provider experience space. So my only mission was to transform it and bring in disruptional and innovative technology. The only swim lanes that I was given, the guardrails I was given, was I had to stay within the service experience side. So spent probably about 6 months researching, because once again, newer to the company, a lot of experience in IT, strategy, sales, consulting piece, but each enterprise runs differently. Also has different political thoughts, processes, et cetera, et cetera. So one of the things that became quite evident to me is when individuals were contacting us via voice, it was always they were very similar questions. So it was very repetitive, almost transactional in nature to a certain degree. And I thought, well, wouldn't that be interesting to develop an intelligent virtual agent that can assist in a conversational dialogue, not in linear fashion like an IVR, but in a conversational dialogue with some intelligence, and just see if we could at least launch that technology in pilot state, just to see what kind of trouble we can get ourselves into. Now, this was back in 2015-16, so AI wasn't AI. I mean, right now, everything's AI, right? So, and what was just beginning to surface in the market was, you had Cortana was still alive. You had Alexa was just kind of in the new thought. Google was just launching. But when you think about that environment for a healthcare, HIPAA compliant, very regulated industry, those commercial devices that you could ask the weather, that's not necessarily the space we could play in. Plus, like any enterprise, you have legacy architecture. And you also have, I know healthcare, it's shocking, but we're still faxing. So you can imagine the legacy architecture that we had to kind of contend with, including landlines. We still had people calling landlines. So when you think about where we sat at that point in time, and everything was, broadband Wi-Fi, it's not something that we could solely launch in that area because that's not really where our consumer base was yet from a maturity perspective. So we had to respect, the VoIP, the digital landline, faxing. So launched business case, RFI, RFP, and at that point in time, it was really interesting because there weren't many takers on that because of all the reasons stated. The security, protocols and regulations probably couldn't, muster. You can't ask, hey, Alexa, can you tell me about Sarah, Hines in the middle of, a doctor's office? Obviously, some HIPAA problems. So 3 vendors showed up to the table. One was not as advanced and really was not AI. Once again, my job wasn't to bring in an IVR, right? My job was to bring in disruptive, forward-facing, transformational technology. So I had an engineer, I swear he stayed up all night. We had a 3-day session. They spent 2 days trying to talk me out of the use case, which clearly they didn't know much about me at that point in time. So 3rd day, they came up and he's like, I think I might have something. And it sounded so horrible, you all. I mean, I cannot even, and not that I ever watched it, but Lost in Space, where it's like that robot, Will Robinson, that's what it sounded like, but probably worse. So he's like, I got to hear it, but it wasn't necessarily the voice at the point in time, it was the proof of technology, that it could be done. We could do this connectivity point. And that's where the journey started. So we started that co-development journey. Obviously now the voices are, as I said, they're so sophisticated, the neural voices anymore, you won't be able to tell human from, and you can change their rate of speech, glottal tension, pitch, breathiness. I mean, it's amazing. And you could do it mid-sentence if you so chose. I mean, it's so the advancements past that, but that was the first use case, and we went in a co-development journey. It was very exciting. I love the build, I love the innovation, and presently it's taking almost 1.5 to 1.7 million calls a month, and has been built out into probably over 4,500 conversational nodes in one platform, and then the other platforms are about the equivalent and then smaller. So once again, the ability to converse and be able to interact in more of a dynamic manner. So you're still leading the witness, so to speak, because you still need information, but it's wonderful because you can just stay in it and get all of those inquiries. And then the more we, once again, use predictive modeling, the technology to understand itself and the data behind it, then you know exactly where your build points can possibly be and where your growth points are. So once again, very powerful tools. Also, it is a supervised learning experience. At all points in time, you want your AI to be supervised. You don't want to let your, It was so funny because I always said, oh, she must be, the AI platform's mom, And I said it's analogous to you can't let a 3-year-old out in the front yard, and say, hey, be safe. So AI develops and continues to learn and evolve, and you have to do that and keep it in its little swim lanes. And also, sometimes it's not perfect. So, it's like spider instead of provider. I think it's the same thing. I'm just going to say that I don't think a provider said spider. So, so it's been a really, it's been an interesting journey, and it has taught me so much about not only technology, but innovation, patience, and really the most important 2 facts. And number 1, stay curious. Curiosity is always a fun thing. Stay curious and be prepared to fail. Just be prepared to fail. And it's failure to me is a first attempt in learning. And everybody, we're programmed to always know. You're the subject matter expert. You should know. Don't ask a question. You look like you don't know what you're doing. Blah, blah, blah. And it's really taught me it's okay to say, I'm sorry, I have no earthly idea what you're talking about. And then it's like, oh, thank goodness we didn't either. I was like, well, there we go. Nobody knew, and we were going to listen to this for an hour, and nobody knew what he was saying. So, and be okay and prepare your environment to know that it is a journey, it is not a sprint, and it's not going to be a marathon. So it will be an investment, and you're going to learn along the way, and you're going to pivot, and you're going to be in a ditch, and you're going to pull yourself out, and you have to really have that level of patience and prowess for innovation. So that's kind of those thoughts that at least I learned over the 8 years on the platform.
Oh my goodness. So I wanted to ask a couple of questions. Like you mentioned 400 communication modes. What is that? Is it different languages?
Well, it's over 4,500, and what it is,
4,500.
It's like think about it like a spider web. Like in a conversational, like today. When I walk up to somebody, you don't know how that conversation's going to flow. You have, a level of understanding, especially when it's kind of a service and you have a consumer. You know somewhat where they're going to travel, but not always. And so to be able to dynamically interweave to whatever node you possibly need to go towards or to, it can be guided that way. And then we do analytics on each one of those like service experience nodes, and pull it forth to say, how are we doing? Is there transfer out? Is there opting out? So that's how we get down to that granular level of digging in. Are we asking the question appropriately? Are we expecting a yes and no, and they're pressing 1 or 2? So once again, make sure it's cross-trained to handle DTMF. So we've learned, and so when you talk about, if I was to, wipe, I don't even know whether I could, it would be take up that entire wall of all of the interconnections that you could possibly have, because if you think about it, it is truly like a spiral, because you don't know where that conversation's going to go. You have no idea. I think, fun fact, the longest provider in the environment was 52 minutes, where they just inquired away about whatever it is. So they would, 52 minutes, technology doesn't care. They clearly like the experience, so that's to date. That's the record.
Wow.
So yeah, I thought that was a fun fact.
Yes, that's what I was going to ask you next, was like, what is the average interaction time, and like,
Not 52 minutes. Somebody had some staying power on that one for sure.
Yeah.
We wanted just to get complete early, right? So
yeah. And what types of, like, when you first put the original use cases together, what was your initial thought, and then where has it gone from there?
Oh, okay. So when we first launched, y'all, and once again, this is kind of a labor of love. We launched with 2 specific inquiry intents, right? So they could call in, and then we did a pilot, and we got a pilot group to come into the environment and critique, like, how'd we do? What else would you need to know? And that's another thing. If you're doing some type of service interaction, be sure and don't build in a box. Do a litmus test all the time. Take it out into the people that are practically, the practical application side. Who's going to use it? Did you? Well, this is what they're expecting. I'm like, is it? Are you sure? How do you know that? Well, that's part of what. So once again, go into the other side and see. So we did a lot of the pilot, reiterations and the focus groups to really understand, are we providing what we need to be providing? Then we had a unique opportunity to go ahead and, launch on the other side. We've really got the perfect storm. So you've got this front ending, and then in the event that they transfer, you've got all the contact center data. So what are they specifically looking to do? What didn't this environment provide? So how can I build it out? So that basically cyclical feedback loop is extremely important to us as well. So we're really attached to, the downstream impacted contact centers, and really work with them on a weekly basis, scrubbing through data to say, how can we continue to program up? How can we continue to offer? And really, if you think about it, he can self-promote himself, hey, did you know I'm also now can, provide X, Y, and Z. So it's really, it's shameless self-promotion, but, it's okay. He's good.
Well, how is this transforming jobs inside the employees that are actually interfacing with what you're doing in AI, or how do you anticipate AI affecting other tasks inside the company?
Well, Humana, Humana has been, I will tell you, amazing, at least on my particular journey. The stick-to-itness, I was going to say, and the executive level sponsorship, you know, I commend. I commend. That's all I can say. When they say they're serious about innovation, it is something that's important to continue forward with, to understand how to provide additional services, health, well-being, anything we can to our consumers. It's really walked. It's not just talked. So, and from my team's perspective, well, once again, mine was, this, small project that, was kind of like, as I said, labor of love. So my first team was voluntold that they would be working on this. So I think there was maybe 6 of us. And it was so funny because it was like they were like deer in headlights, except for one gentleman, and he was he's a solution arc at the time, and now he's walked the journey with me still by my side today. If he says no, I say no. I don't even know why I'm saying no. It's only because he said no. I'm like, no. Why? I don't know. He said no. That's how much I trust him. And they were just all staring at me like, who are you and why am I here type of thing. And the organization obviously is now much larger, constantly staying up on certifications, and it is wonderful because the amount of people that really want to get into the organization and get into this type of work has been just amazing. And also the retention within the organization has been something I've never seen or experienced. So they want to continue to grow and they want to continue. So it's so funny when I have an opening, it's almost like I just shuffle the deck chairs around because they're, they all want to stay in this innovative space. And it's also when you grow up from a little, group of people and you just continue the sense of community, the sense of partnership, the sense of camaraderie and collaboration is there. And so it's, we work as a team, and it didn't really matter how big the organization has gotten. It's just that's culturally what you continue to nurture.
So tell us a little bit about your new role. You said that now you're going to be doing more inventing.
Oh,
She's going to be inventing things.
It's really fun. So on the provider experience side, I built my baby, and like anything, and especially my personal children of 3 boys, they have to grow up, right? And then they have to launch and they have to go do their thing. So it was time for me to go do my thing. And so I had an opportunity to move over into the specialty area, which is, so it is once again serving the provider space, but in a different realm. And so I look to continue to innovate over on that side, which I'm super excited about too. So I'm now kind of back to, what kind of trouble I can get myself into from a build perspective. So that has been wonderful. And once again, senior leadership, they are nothing but encouraging.
And you said that's about 2 months. So what is your target for the next invention? Like, what is the space you're, looking into at this point? I have got, it's like anything, I go rogue fast. There's just, my mind is always churning with ideas. So right now, digital is something that we're hyper-focused on, the continued build out of our digital experiences as the generations continue to kind of come on in. They're tech savvy and tech native. So they're going to be, expecting to do, if you just look at communication pattern, my kids do not call me. Now when they do, I'm usually on high alert. And it usually has something to do with, hey, Mom, could you transfer? So it leads in usually, Mom, can I have $20? So, so digital experience, going to, we do an amazing job, but want to dig into it to understand how to stay ahead of that curve of what's going to be expected. Very excited about generative AI. That's very this is
scary.
Interesting.
Very scary. Love this.
So what are you seeing? In your role, I'm sure you're looking at a lot of technologies. Are there certain aspects of generative AI that you're like, this could be useful?
I think generative AI is going to be useful, period. I think it elevated us and it jettisoned us into a realm rather rapidly. Like anything in technology, you've got to responsibly Sherpa anything and everything, especially when you've got an intelligence layer to it to a certain degree. But generative AI allows now, instead of more prescriptive programming, it's got kind of a natural innate ability to source, search, put together in very dangerous fashions. So very bullish about it, love it. It's once again curious. But it's like a toddler again, right? You can't just let it out in the front yard and go, here you go, let's answer everything and you've got it, right? Still need to kind of put it in its, little, make sure it's safe.
Now, are you using it already for like checking out coding? Are there certain teams in Humana that may be using some of this generative AI in the coding side?
Well, we've got, needless to say, we've got, Humana's huge, right? And it's got a lot of innovation organizations, a lot of innovation pockets. We are definitely exploring it for numerous use cases, but we're being, as always, responsible stewards, making sure that from a security, regulatory, HIPAA, we have a lot, to contend with, just making sure that whatever it is, you have to, security is your best friend. So, but yes, are we looking into it? Absolutely. Is it being curiously dangerous? Yeah, I think it's fun. It's been, I've been, the use cases that we have piloted thus far are they're showing promise. Lots of promise.
So on the policy side, does Humana already have like an official policy on generative AI? I'm just curious.
You know what? I will tell you, I'm sure by now we've launched an official policy. Just once again, when you get a new technology, everybody's on it. Right? It's like, oh my gosh, we got it. So our security, they do an amazing job. And they were like, oh, let's contain, let's figure this out on how to do this. So yeah, I'm sure we've got stringent policies in it by now. We probably had it, shortly after it was launched because, everybody's curious and wants to grab it. So, but once again, we've got to, we have to contain it.
Right. And now, in terms of working with some of the younger staff at Humana, are you seeing a lot more of the 20s and 30-year-olds wanting to really push the limit in tech? And what are some of the things that you might engage them on?
Oh, I have, and as a matter of fact, I just had a presentation, and it was just so delightful. It's, I love the zealous and the energy sometimes of, it's still the art of the possible. Like they don't know can't be done, so it's like, let's do this. And yes, definitely engaging. I have individuals on my former team that, I've been mentoring, since they walked through the door and continuing to grow and evolve. I love the ideas. I love, once again, because it's the art of the possible, they don't know it can't be done. So it's just like they don't have that same type of, I don't want to say guardrails or blinders, but they don't sometimes think like you do after you've been doing something for such a long time. They have a fresh perspective. They have, let's do it this way, and you have to smile because I love that energy. I love the energy, and I love the willingness to get in there and figure it out with you. So it's just, it's infectious to me. But, once again, age, that infectious nature can be at any age, at any point in time. But I know with the, who we're recruiting from that kind of generation group, they're very eager to continue to learn, excel, grow, especially in tech. It's huge.
So on the career side, are there certain skills that, as we look at trying to join your team, what types of skills do you require?
Well, it's like you have to have, it depends on, of course, what is the position. So that's always the key. Like where it starts with what are the requirements of the position? What would you love them to have as a base core knowledge? But I think personally when I recruit, I look for a little bit more so than that, like many of you all. You look for not only what they know and inherent, but also what they're about. What is their passion? What do they want to do with their lives? I spend a lot of time kind of sourcing that. I also spend a lot of time, before anyone came into my organization, they were going to meet me. And the reason why is it's not because I didn't trust my leadership team and their teams to make the right decision. It's because I wanted to give them the opportunity to get to know me, to get to understand culturally what I'm trying to continue to nurture in the organization. Any questions about Humana, my leadership? What's that about? Because to me, it's a partnership and it's very important. If you want to retain, you've got to, you've got to be authentic, you've got to be candid, and you got to be transparent with them. I mean, like just the fail thing. I mean, I have the most amazing individual on my team, and every time he's like, it didn't work. And I'm like, it's going to be okay. And he's like, no, but I failed. And I'm like, well, yeah. So did you learn? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, well, then there's the point, right? So that just permission space to know that this is innovation at its finest. I mean, I told my youngest the other day, I said, I fail all the time, and that's okay. It's okay to do that. I'm still learning, so I'm going to bump into walls too. So, but yeah, just that eagerness, and also what their journey is, because I always want to make sure I understand so I can help mentor them into wherever it is they want to go. Stay within the organization, mature out of the organization, leave the company and go, do something vastly different. So I've mentored people in, out, every which way. So.
And beyond developers, what types of roles do you have on your team?
Oh gosh, well, we're kind of our self-contained ecosystem. So we start from hello, here's the idea, all the way through to let's go ahead and do a full scrub of requirements, value, prioritization, we're agile, safe, let's move it on, design, development, all of those type of things. So we have the same thing all the way down to the metrics, analyzation, feedback loop teams, and then we start again. So it's like a very cyclical process in its own ecosystem of learning. And what's wonderful about that is we have got just a great IT group, brethren that's been along this journey who assists in all of those type of things as well. So it's been, but once again, I think sometimes people forget, they get all excited about the build, they forget about all of the ability to show value and what you've done and the measurable metrics, because at the end of the day, it is about results still. I mean, I'd love to say, everybody just loves to invent, but it has to create a purpose, a value, whatever that value happens to be, and that value needs to be quantifiable, many times. And even experience value is quantifiable, and you can garner that in feedback, NPS T-scores, NPS Rs, all of that. So once again, always making sure what you think you're doing, the proof is always in the pudding. So you've got to make sure this is a great idea. Well, if your consumer didn't think it was a great idea, maybe we got to go back and recalculate it a little bit.
So when corporations are looking at AI, are there certain types of tasks that you think are sort of ripe for discussion at this point? Like, could you categorize for us some of the types of things that you think AI could be really strong, like say in the next 3 to 5 years?
Oh, you guys, I think AI, I think technology in general can be applied to anything and everything. I've seen the same platform that I use for, X, Y, and Z utilized in a vastly different manner. I mean, I have never seen the flexibility. I spend a lot of time when I'm at, if I head to conferences, I spend a lot of time with the R&D or the innovation labs, because it's so amazing what they're thinking. I mean, I was like, what do you mean? Well, Sarah, it's because of air pollutants, it measures all of the air pollutants. It predicts what, because of the storm patterns, because of the velocity of the wind, the direction of the wind, blah, blah, the congestion based on that, pattern, and it rolls up the windows. I'm like, what? And it automatically rolls up the windows? Yes, for air quality control, and turns on and basically goes into the recirculation mode. I was like, oh, that's cool. Now, once again, in my healthcare brain, that would have never been anything on my radar screen. Another company's in the middle of the ocean predicting pipe corrosion down to a level, so instead of doing spot checking, because of the amount of salt in the water, the amount of, once again, the tides, the currents, the velocities, all of that's measured, and it'll say, you need to change this within, 15.7 days based on the parameters you programmed. I was like, what? That's another, once again, stop it. That's so cool. I was like, I would have thought of that, but that's not my industry. So once again, I guess my thought is if you can think it, and technically it can happen, just, stay at it. If I got told, one time, I got told a million times, well, you can't do that, you can't do that, you can't do that. I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure I can. So you just have to kind of keep forging through. And once again, I commend Humana and really the leadership to, that once again, they stuck through it. And we were in the ditch. When you innovate something that's never been done before, you're going to end up on a failure points. You've got your failure points, and Humana's like, no, this is, we're making progress. We got this, So the amount of encouragement was just amazing. But it's been such an interesting adventure to see how all of these different industries use it, and I'm still in awe every time I talk to somebody about something. I'm like, wow, that's very cool.
What are the providers asking you for anything next? Like what's next from the questions you're getting on the provider side as to what they would like to see?
So we, in this new role, we have an advisory council, so I'm super excited. And this group of individuals are engaged. They are great cross-section representation, and I promise you, they are not shy on what they need. So listening to those pain points, that's, to me, pretty important. Because once again, talking something is different than walking it and executing it and delivering it, So that's, you gotta, the proving ground is you gotta do it all. So I've got a list, and it wasn't, I kind of walked in with a list, and I'm going to do litmus tests. And so once again, do the same thing. Here's what I heard you say. Here's what we've developed thus far. Where are we? Where are we going? What do we need to change? What do we need to modify? Is this a value to you? Because if it's not a value, then why are we doing this, right? How would you like this rearranged? Is this, So once again, always checking back in with your end consumer or whoever you are trying to create the value for is extremely important.
Yeah, and so that's great advice. I was going to ask you what advice you have for other corporations that are going down the AI journey. What are some of the first steps in terms of creating a team and the types of people they're going to need, and then give us kind of that overview again of what are some of the most important things when you really start working on this internally?
I think I said curiosity and tenacity. Tenacity is a huge one. And really expect to fail, expect to learn. So, and know that some of the things you're going to endeavor, they don't have a blueprint. So they've never been done before. So making sure that your executive leadership knows that this is a journey of innovation. It's not a journey of a project deployment. It is a journey of innovation. So there are going to be learnings. There's going to be, if I say deliver in I don't know, well, I don't know is not an acceptable answer. How much? I don't know, So some of those gray areas, they just have to be accepted, and they have to be really transparent. And that was one thing. Leadership was amazing. My leadership was amazing, but it was like I was extremely transparent. How'd that go? Not well. So here's what we did, but here's what we're doing now. Great, super, gotcha. And so once again, you have to have an appetite to innovate unless it's been done before, right? If you're just picking up a use case that's been done, 20,000 times before, and you're lifting and shifting, cool. You've got kind of a proven track record, and you've also got a proven blueprint. If you're starting something brand spanking new that's never been done for a particular use case, you're going to build the talent. You're going to have that patience, and once again, just expectation of you're going to learn.
Tell us just briefly some of the names and types of people that are on your team at this point that are working with you that you might want to call out a few people.
Oh, I will call out my entire team. I will call out my entire team. There is not one that, you guys, I have been so blessed and so honored to lead, not only, and to work with side by side with who I've worked with from the very beginning to who I'm, continuing to work with. It's a great, and the fact that they'll all, hey, we've got to do this, it's an emergency. Fine, I'll test, I'll pitch in. I test. It doesn't matter, right? But it was amazing when we, everybody steps in. Just,
Yes.
and you're going to have those fire drills. But my team, it's just, they've always stepped in. And the new team I've just joined, they're just stellar. I think it's just culturally exactly what Humana continues to exemplify.
Yeah, it's really culture. Well, I think we're going to open it up to any questions you might have for Sarah. And Eric, what is our time?
11:46.
Okay, so we have maybe, 8 or 9 minutes. So 3 questions. Who are my 3 questions? Yes,
Be kind.
stand up and speak. Stand up and speak for us.
Looking forward to, I guess, the pie-in-the-sky, futuristic people. When we're looking at our middle schoolers, high schoolers,
Yes.
those types that really are going to be our future workforce, what would you see as far as where do we need to nurture? Where do we need to grow outside of also ethics? I'm just going to throw that out.
Right,
there.
understood. Understood.
It's going to be, hey, we have to go there.
Right.
But what do you see in far as, how do we present it to them and how to nurture them to go in that direction?
I think we have one of the easiest jobs right now with the next generations than ever before, because I will tell you, my children can out-tech me now. And my youngest moved, and I'm serious, I can't do anything. Something breaks, I'm like, Rob, okay, this is what I've got. I don't do desktop support. I do large infrastructure and AI, but yeah. So, because they're already naturally tech savvy and tech native, they're going to run circles around me and right now my children can run circles around me in certain swim lanes. Now I'm still wiser and I can still probably out strategize and outsmart them a tad bit, but from pound for pound tech wise, yeah, they can hold their own. Apple wanted to hire my son and he's like, well, I'm only 15. And you don't hire geniuses until you're, he had the whole stats for him. But he walked into the Apple store and was going toe-to-toe with a genius, right? So once again, you got 12-year-olds that are hacking into systems. There is, and here's what I have noticed that I didn't have at their age, and this is just life according to Sarah, is they don't have that fear of failing or breaking something. It's just they have this natural, I'll just, do something else. Watching them work, it's like, oh, that didn't work. I was like, what are you gonna, wait, don't wipe everything off, like, oh my God, did you back this up? And he's like, Mom, you gotta chill, stop, and it's like, but they don't seem to have that fear.
Do you think they should be moving towards certifications by the end of high school? Is that going to be important to Humana? Or?
You know what? I don't know what's going to be important to Humana. I think we're probably going to, and it was so funny. I just listened to, I think it was maybe a TED Talk. Anyway, the gentleman, he was PhD, and he's like, we're teaching our children incorrectly. The old school whatever, is that still applicable to what? Because, the jobs, and I don't know the stat, I did read it and I've forgotten, but, the jobs that are here today are not even going to exist, and, because it's moving so quickly. So how do you continue to, prepare? But I swear they're preparing themselves because of just their natural daily interactions with each other and their fearless exploration of tech. Yes?
How do we teach this next generation technology responsibility?
Oh, God. Well, how much time do we have? I could have a whole nother conversations on tech ethics, the responsibilities of technology. I think that I think like everything in the world, it has its place and it has its time, right? I think balance is always the key to anything, overindulgence of anything. Trying to teach our kids, for me, I have, in my personal space, I had a tech neutral, like we're tech down evenings, and we played board games. We had so much, we still have so much fun. We're just like a board game family. But also teaching them, like anything, it's like the ocean, it's like a swimming pool, it's like things that are unpredictable. Teaching them the guidelines, and some things are great, too much of anything is not enough, and tech is very valuable to a certain degree, and then it's not. So I don't know where those boundaries are, and I don't know how to Sherpa kids' responsibility. I do know that their accessibility to information is like something I've never seen before. I mean, my son's got friends globally because of, the games and the role-playing games he does. And he's like, yeah, so I'm gonna go, when I'm over in London, I'm gonna go see my friend that I met online. And you're just like, what? So that global presence and that ability for any information, I don't know how to keep that in check, because
definitely live connection is still important. And I think people forget that as well.
One-on-one, so it's like cell phone's down, like talk to me, communicate with me, and that's what I'm a little concerned with as I see my kids. They're all in the same room and they're like, I'm like, are you texting each other? Seriously? He's sitting right in front of you, stop it, put your phone down, So, and so building those, once again, back to school, building that not only I'm feeding you information. To me, that art of communication and continuing to put it in a daily environment. And I do that with my team. I'm like, what are you thinking? I'm not just the talking person. What are you thinking? I want your thoughts. So I don't know whether that was an answer, but it's just life according to Sarah is what I'm seeing. So
there you go. Okay, we'll take one more question, then we're going to break for lunch, and lunch is back in the other rooms to get your exercise between the two buildings.
In the back.
Thank you, Dawn, for putting this together, and Sarah,
Thanks,
wonderful talk, and thanks for putting Louisville on the map. Can you address build versus buy, and in this new innovation and journey, and then also when buy may have integrated well into build?
Oh, I am a proponent of both. So, because there's places for both, right? I mean, sometimes if it's already been built, why would you build it, right? Now, many times when you look at buy, can you buy it? And then, to me, I use the word customize very lightly. To me, I want it anything that you purchase, I want to augment whatever the general journey is. So I think every project or anything that is a large endeavor comes with a strategy. Everything that you do at any step in that journey should track back to your strategy, period, end of sentence. So if your strategy is go from, I'm starting here and here is my end goal to do this, every step needs to build and mature on that end goal. So whether you buy, whether you build, it has to be logical to get you here. To me, I'm a proponent of both, and I have done both. I have promoted both, and I did a ground-up build because it didn't exist. So you don't have a lot of choice, right? That was my job. I did it. There we go. So that's why. But I will tell you, if I could have partnered with somebody who had, was already half there, and I just have to meet them halfway, probably would have endeavored that. Absolutely. It fast tracks you. sometimes, you know? So once again, evaluation and piloting, I'm huge on. Test and learn, test and learn, test and learn. It's just, it gives you the data, gives you information, and gives you, you know, it gives you ability to pivot still in a very agile, you know, contained environment. So.
Well, thank you so much, Sarah, for taking this time with
Well,
us.
thank you for inviting
and
me.
This has been great.